Everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and you are watching The Nerdy Grail. Now, in my hand, I'm holding the Venom Let There Be Carnage and the Venom 2018 Steelbook, which can only mean one thing. Yes, only about an hour ago, I have come out of the cinema with my fiance after watching the brand new Venom film, the final one to star Tom Hardy, Venom The Last Dance, so the final one in the trilogy. So I'm going to give you my out of the cinema thoughts, opinions, and a brief review of the movie. I'm not going to go too much in detail, but I am going to go into a few spoilers. So this is a spoiler review, so if you don't want to be spoiled for Venom The Last Dance, then click off the video, go watch Venom The Last Dance, and then come back and listen to my ramblings about the film. So, firstly, the Venom trilogy as a whole has been a bit of a mixed bag. The first film, when I first watched it, I really enjoyed it, but in later viewings, I find it a bit tedious and boring, especially when we're used to the Venom and Eddie banter back and forth, and the first film takes a little while to get going. Riot's a cool villain and all, but I don't know, it's a bit slow for me now. And then the second film, Venom Let There Be Carnage, which came out in 2021, which I can't believe it's been 3 years since that film. We had Woody Harrelson playing Cletus Cassidy, stroke Carnage. I actually surprisingly enjoy that film an awful lot more. I know a lot of people actually say that that film's worse than the first one. I can see your opinion why, but for me, I enjoy it because I love the banter between Eddie and Cletus, love the banter between Carnage and Venom, and I just think the shorter runtime of that film, which is quite quick-paced, suits that film better. So I enjoy that film a lot more. Venom The Last Dance. There's both positives and negatives to this film. Is it my favourite out of the trilogy? No. I'm going to say that right now. No, it's not my favourite in the trilogy. Is it the worst in the trilogy for me? Probably not. I would probably say I actually prefer this one over the first one, and I know that's going to be controversial, but remember, this is just my opinion. We're all entitled to our opinions. So for me, this is probably the middle ground, the middle of the road film. Still worth a watch, because this does, at least as far as we're aware, set up future movies, maybe not necessarily in that universe, but in other universes like Spider-Man 4, which was briefly rumoured and sort of almost revealed now that the title of Spider-Man 4 is going to be King in Black. So focusing on this film, though, Venom The Last Dance, and how it potentially sets that up, is the film kicks off straight away back in... Well, it gives you a little bit of a glimpse into the main villain first, actually, which the main villain of this is Null, who's really, really cool, and is actually voiced by Andy Serkis in this film as well, and he does a terrific job. He's not in it an awful lot, but I'm guessing that's mainly because they want to set him up for the future. And there's a good post-credit scene as well, where you actually get to see his face. It looks very CGI, but I'm sure when we actually get to see Null properly on the screen, it'll look a lot better. Still look cool, though. But you get a bit of a glimpse into what he's all about. You learn that he's trapped and he's searching for something. This special someone who has this key called a codex that could free him from a prison that the symbiotes had trapped him in, his own offspring, his own creations. And so he's trying to hunt that down. And we find out that actually the codex is Eddie stroke Venom. They then cuts back to the credits from No Way Home, where Eddie is in a bar in the MCU still, and it repeats that scene that we saw, but they change it a little bit. So instead of him teleporting out, he gets sucked through a new portal back into his own universe, into a bar in Mexico where he's drunk, and you get a bit of drunken escapades. And we find out that after the events of Let There Be Carnage, Eddie is now a wanted criminal for the potential death of Captain Mulligan, who was played by Stephen Graham, who's also in this movie again, and he is fantastic. So Patrick Mulligan is apparently murdered, according to news, even though we find out that he's not. And Eddie is named as the potential suspect, and so has to go on the run. And so he's trying to head to New York City to clear his name. So it's a bit of a road trip sort of movie. But unbeknownst to them, they're actually being hunted down by the creatures, servants of Null. I'm going to probably butcher this name, but I think they're like called xenophages. I think I butchered that. But these creatures have been tracking Eddie and Venom, and are searching for the codex, really. And we find out that the only way to remove the codex is for either Eddie or Venom to die, pretty much. So one of them needs to sacrifice themselves so the codex is destroyed so that Null can't be freed. Because if they capture the codex, then Null will be free from his prison and he will spread out across the multiverse, destroying worlds and conquering universes, pretty much. Along the way, Eddie does get into a lot of different hijinks. These recent events caught the attention of Rex Strickland, who is like a soldier who is run by the government. And there's this whole plot line involving Area 51 being decommissioned, which is... It's interesting that they decide to set it all within like this little decommissioned part of Area 51 where they're keeping symbiotes hostage, experimenting on them, trying to keep them safe, supposedly. And that's where they keep Mulligan as well, who's now been injected with a new symbiote after the previous one apparently rejected him in order to save his life. And he forewarns that Null and these creatures are coming. Cut back to Eddie, who's constantly on the run, evading danger. And he runs across this little hippie family. And I think it's the dad of the family is called Martin. Martin Moon, I believe, who's played by Reese Fans, which I love Reese Fans. Obviously, if you don't know, he was the Lizard stroke Dr. Connors in The Amazing Spider-Man and also No Way Home in recent years. They're quite a fun little family group, and Eddie travels with them to Las Vegas, where, you know, he then runs into Mrs. Chen, which I love Mrs. Chen. She's a fantastic character, and I'm so glad she made it into this film as well. But yeah, they're still hiding, still on the run, trying to figure out what to do and how to get this codex situation sorted out and free Eddie's name and no longer make him a fugitive, because there's nowhere that he can hide. However, unfortunately, Eddie and Venom do get captured by the military and taken to Area 51 It's going to end up being a meme, and I said this to my fiance, and she said this to me as well at the time, that she could see the dance scene. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. Mrs. Chen and Venom have a very long dance number in the film. Some will call it cringy, some will call it hilarious. I call it a bit of both. It's cringy, hilarious. It's a bit of fun. And they took the last dance part of the title seriously, because it is pretty much the last dance that they have together. It's quite funny, it's amusing. It's a bit of light-hearted fun. Okay, I know some people are going to hate it, but I quite liked it. But after that, Venom and Eddie get captured, taken to Area 51, where Eddie meets up with Mulligan again, who warns Eddie that they need to get out of there. Eddie does get reunited with the symbiote, with Venom, because he's actually been separated from Venom at this point. And unfortunately, Mulligan does sacrifice himself to allow Eddie and Venom to escape. Then there's this huge big battle that ensues all through the complex. They release all these other symbiotes as well. There's about 5 or 6 different other symbiotes in there, and it's so you can't really see a lot. That's the problem, and they're getting killed off far too quickly as well, which that's something that I was a little disappointed about. Is Mulligan's character in this was so wasted. They set up such good potential in Venom Let There Be Carnage, where he was killed supposedly at the end of Let There Be Carnage by Carnage. And we saw like in the glimpse in his eye of a symbiote there, you know, and we thought maybe he might be the next major villain or play a big role at least in the third film. He's barely in this, really, if I'm honest. If you want to talk about minutes of screen time, he probably has about 5 minutes of screen time, maybe a little bit more than that in the whole film. So wasted potential is what I will say about him. But he still does good for what he's worth. But yeah, the whole big battle through the complex, all the symbiotes escape above ground. And in the end, Venom and Eddie come to the realization that one of them needs to go because Null has tracked them down, has sent loads of his troops out to retrieve the codex from Venom. And they can't go on because there's too many people, innocent people getting killed, and they need to put a stop to it. So Venom does sacrifice himself for Eddie and for the universe. So unfortunately, as it stands, Venom does get killed off in this film. I remember walking into this film thinking which one of them is going to go. I was leaning towards Venom more, so it wasn't really a shock when Venom sacrificed himself for Eddie and for the rest of the crew, which is really, really nice. But yeah, and after all the conflict is resolved and everyone's fine and well, we see a lot of the Martin Moon family, the Reese fans family as well. They actually help Eddie during the final fight, and they're quite a nice little family mix, if I'm being honest. We then cut to a future event where Eddie is recovering in a hospital. He's been cleared of all the charges that were held against him. And he's in New York now because he made a promise to Venom, who at the start of the film said that he would love to go see the Statue of Liberty. So he does go to visit the Statue of Liberty in honour of his fallen comrade Venom, which I think was quite nice, actually. And it was a nice panning shot of Eddie staring at the Statue of Liberty and saying that he'll never forget Venom. So I thought it was really, really nice and touching. And then you got the post-credit scenes. There was a couple of post-credit scenes. The first one was hinting at the fact that Null is not beaten. He will return, saying stuff like the King in Black will return and he will be conquering your universe. And so it is setting up what will probably happen in Spider-Man 4. So that will be interesting. And then there was a final post-credit scene after all the credits had rolled where the bartender from earlier from the MCU universe and the Sonyverse, he was like running out of a cave, running through the destruction of Area 51, and we saw this black cockroach running by a smashed vial, so hinting at maybe a symbiote has possessed that cockroach, and the fact that it was a black one as well. Maybe there's a hint of Venom still left, who knows. But yeah, so overall, what would I rate Venom? Let There Be Carnage. Venom: The Last Dance. I would probably give it a 6. It's nothing fantastic, but it is lighthearted. It is funny. There is a serious tone. It does feel a bit of a jumbled mess at times, if I'm honest. And there was a lot of wasted potential in characters like Mulligan. I think they could have expanded upon that more. And obviously Noel being the big bad, but not being the big bad, it made it feel like this film didn't really have a major villain, even though it did. The stakes were high in this film, which was good, and you did feel emotional when Venom did sacrifice himself at the end. And I liked seeing Mrs. Chen return. But that just had to do a quick cut there. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing Mrs. Chen return, and I also really enjoyed, obviously, Tom Hardy as Eddie and Venom for one last ride, for one last final dance. It was really, really good. He did seem a bit tired through this film, but he has been through quite a lot, hasn't he, really, over the course of apparently 1 year, because apparently the events of this film took place in just 1 year. So Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and The Last Dance, which is mad to think about when if that is really, really true. But yeah, so overall, yeah, it was a decent film. Like I said, about a 6, I would say. I enjoyed it, middle of the road for this trilogy. And it'll be interesting to see where it goes forward from here with Null and in Spider-Man 4, The King in Black. Let's see what the future holds. Obviously, like I said, we've still got Kraven the Hunter to come. And let's see whether that film lives up to the hype. I mean, let's be real, it probably won't, because their track record for releasing films that originally were delayed has not been the best, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I have already put my pre-order in, like I said, for the Venom, The Last Dance Steelbook, because I am a collector and I've already got the first 2, as you saw at the start of the video, so I will be picking this one up. But I hope you did enjoy this little review on Venom: The Last Dance. If you did, please like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you saw this movie. What did you think of it? Did you enjoy it? And subscribe if you are new. But for now, this is the Nerdy Grail signing off. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now, everyone.